എല്ലാ മാന്യ പവർവിഷൻ പ്രേക്ഷകർക്കും സ്വാഗതം. ലോക ജനതയെ ആകമാനം ആകാംക്ഷയിലാക്കി സംഹാര താണ്ഡവമാടുന്ന കൊറോണ വൈറസിനെ നേരിടാൻ ആരോഗ്യമേഖലയും ഭരണാധികാരികളും ശ്രമങ്ങൾ നടത്തുന്ന കാഴ്ചകളും വാർത്തകളുമാണ് നാം ദിനംപ്രതി കാണുകയും കേൾക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ലോക രാഷ്ട്രങ്ങളിലെ രോഗവ്യാപകരുടെയും മരണപ്പെട്ടവരുടെയും സംഖ്യ മണിക്കൂറുകൾ കഴിയുമ്പോൾ വർധനവിലേക്ക് തന്നെയാണ്. രോഗവ്യാപന തോത് വർദ്ധിക്കുന്ന അമേരിക്കയിൽ COVID-19 പോസിറ്റീവ് ആയി 4 ലക്ഷം ആളുകളും മരണസംഖ്യ ഇപ്പോൾ 14,000-ഉം കവിഞ്ഞു. ഇതിൽ ന്യൂയോർക്ക്, ന്യൂജേഴ്സി, ടെക്സസ്, ഫിലദൽഫിയ എന്നിവിടെ നിന്നുള്ള മലയാളി സഹോദരികളും ഉൾപ്പെടുന്നു. എന്നാൽ കൊറോണ രോഗവ്യാപനത്തെ ചെറുക്കാൻ ഭീതി വേണ്ട, ജാഗ്രത മതി എന്ന ലോകം പറയുമ്പോൾ വിശ്വാസ ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് ഫെയ്ത്ത് ഓവർ ഫിയർ, പീസ് ഓവർ പാനിക് എന്നീ ആപ്തവാക്യങ്ങൾ മുറുകെ പിടിക്കുവാൻ കഴിയുന്നത് നമുക്ക് ഇതിനെ അതിജീവിക്കുവാൻ ദൈവാശ്രയം ഉണ്ട് എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ഈ സ്പെഷ്യൽ അഭിമുഖത്തിൽ പ്രേക്ഷകരോട് സംസാരിക്കുന്നത് കല്ലൂപ്പാറ പുതുശ്ശേരി തെക്കേപ്പടിക്കൽ ജോൺ ചാക്കോയുടെയും മേരിക്കുട്ടി ജോണിൻ്റെയും മകളായ ഡോക്ടർ ജൂലി ജോൺ ആണ്. ഡോക്ടർ ജോൺ പ്രാഥമിക വിദ്യാഭ്യാസം തിരുവല്ലയിൽ നടത്തിയ ശേഷം കർണാടകത്തിലും US-ലുമായി മെഡിക്കൽ പഠനം പൂർത്തിയാക്കി. ഇപ്പോൾ ന്യൂജേഴ്സിയിലെ വെസ്റ്റ് ഓറഞ്ച് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ഹോസ്പിറ്റലിൽ ക്രിട്ടിക്കൽ കെയർ വിഭാഗത്തിൽ ഡോക്ടർ ആയി സേവനം ചെയ്തു വന്നപ്പോഴാണ് COVID-19 എന്ന രോഗം പിടിപെടുന്നത്. ആത്മധൈര്യം ചോർന്നു പോകാതെ പ്രാർത്ഥനയോടെ ദൈവഹിതത്തിനായി സമർപ്പിച്ച ഡോക്ടർ ജൂലി ജോണിൻ്റെ അതിജീവന കഥ ഇന്ന് വളരെ ശ്രദ്ധേയമാണ്. മരണം സംഭവിച്ചേക്കാവുന്ന രോഗബാധ ആയതിനാൽ, തൻ്റെ രോഗം വഷളായതിനെ തുടർന്ന് ക്വാറന്റീനിൽ ആയതിനാൽ തൻ്റെ 2 പിഞ്ച് ഓമനകൾക്കായി വീഡിയോ സന്ദേശം ഒരുക്കിയ ഒരു മാതൃഹൃദയത്തിൻ്റെ തേങ്ങലിൻ്റെ കഥ അനേകരെ കണ്ണീരിലാഴ്ത്തി. ഡോക്ടർ ജൂലി ജോൺ പവർവിഷന് നൽകിയ അഭിമുഖത്തിലേക്ക്. Dr. Julie John, we want to thank you for your time. I know you've been so busy lately with all the news and all the things that you've been taking care of. Before we get started, I just want to, for my viewers to know a little bit about you yourself, and especially about your family, you know, your native place in Kerala. As you know, that you're a Malayali.
I'm a Malayali.
Correct. And then, you know, what you do at this point.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, especially given the opportunity to speak to other Christians like myself. God bless you today, and I hope all of you stay safe. My name is Dr. Julie John. I'm 38 years old. Through the grace of God and my parents, I am a physician. My father's house is in Puducherry in Kerala, and my mother is from Malappally in Kerala. We have a house actually in Kerkumathur in Tiruvalla. My dad is there right now. And we have wonderful neighbors and family, and I hear Kerala is doing an absolutely amazing job at this. I am blessed to be the mother of 2 kids who are 8 and 6. My mother is helping me right now in the house because I'm quarantined inside this room that you see right now, unfortunately.
Yes. So, I mean, listening to your national interview that in CNN that you have done on several other TV stations, and the talk that we had just now, we realized that you have a strong Christian hope or the Christian background. Can you tell a little bit about your spiritual upbringing?
Sure. My parents are Malangara Orthodox. I grew up with family prayer every night. Going to church was initially something that is mandatory. You must go as you're growing up. You're not used to, especially if you're Malayali, telling your parents no, even though you might have those questions internally of your faith, but your parents guide and steer you in the right direction. You know, God gives you those parents that he wants you to have for a reason, and he gives you a church for that reason. As I grew up through med school, residency, and fellowship, I actually found a non-denominational church. I go to the Liquid Church in Parsippany, and I was saved last year. So I practice non-denominational, and I am not, I feel like I'm not even worthy to be speaking about this, but by God's grace, I have been saved.
I mean, that's a great testimony, and especially like you said, the parents, even though these days kids been forced to go to church, but I think as we grow up, we know the spiritual values the upbringing we have, especially as a Malayali, as you mentioned. And I thank God for your life, and you thank God for your parents' life. Um,
Absolutely, Sam.
Definitely. So let's fast forward to the current situation that, what brought you to the, studio. And, we realize that you are an intensive care physician and you care for the COVID patients. And you've been doing that as far as whenever this disaster, I say, hit in United States, you were the front line.
Mm-hmm.
When did you realize you might have contracted COVID-19?
So I started a 7-day shift, and I love that you asked that question the way that you are, because I know you have some experience in healthcare. It's when did I think I have the symptoms, right? Because let's go back a little bit. We are all going to be asymptomatic, meaning not have any symptoms until the symptoms start. So your question is a very smart question. When do I think my symptoms started? So I finished a 7-day shift. In those 7 days, did I visit grocery stores? Yes. Did I go to the post office? Yes. Was there a church? No. Our church has not been having any services. There has been no school, but I started to become symptomatic 2 days after my shift. It started with a fever, chills, sore throat, and then the worst headache started I have ever experienced, but with shortness of breath the day after. And that's why and when God gave me the time to make a video for my children. But to your point, I had symptoms, but I probably caught the virus a few days before. I was infected, even though my symptoms started 3 days later.
Definitely. And again, we're seeing that throughout the picture or throughout the patient's histories, that patients can be asymptomatic, as you mentioned, and they could be passed along or transmitted the virus even, a few days prior to you showing the symptoms. In that case, you've been working and taking care of the COVID patients. When you came home, how did you handle that, quarantine yourself from the kids? Always as a Malayali parent, or even the family, they always wanted to come to you, hug you. How difficult was that?
It is, sorry. That
was how did you handle that?
Oh, that's a great question, and one that might cause some crying, so I'm going to apologize now. As a parent, as a person who is a member of this world, to not have human touch is a big deal. Not a handshake, not even seeing people moving away from you like there's almost something wrong with you, right?
Correct.
It hurts me to not be near my children. My 8-year-old, we double gloved once to touch hands, and she was clawing onto my fingertips, craving for mom's touch. It is so hard to be isolated away, to have to run to my room if I have to eat something because the mask has to come off. I see my children almost 6 to 8 feet apart, max an hour or two a day. Now that I'm not coughing that much, the windows are open, the door is open. When I'm outside in air, I'm still 6 to 8 feet apart. It is extremely, extremely hard. How am I dealing with it emotionally? The power of prayer and the word of God, the support of family and friends. And it helps to know that there's other people that are going through this. I always say, I almost feel so selfish saying that it's so nice to have someone else that you read about that's going through this, because in our world, and I can say in the Malayali world, I feel like there is a stigma of having this disease. And as a critical care physician, I was embarrassed about having this. I was embarrassed telling people that I have this, because who wants to go near someone with COVID-19 when you hear about all this, right?
Sure.
And when I talked about it on CNN, it was something that made me feel so much better. I felt like my social anxiety was lifted because people started to reach out, some of our own people, many of our own people, to say, hey, I'm glad you said something because I have it too. So I think the hardest part of the quarantine is the physical part. I am resolving and my symptoms are much better, thank God. But the emotional aspect, it still hits me.
Definitely, and another great point that you brought up. I mean, as a Malayali person, that we do not want to open up to everybody, but I think have to know that there's somebody there to care for you, praying for you. That's even uplifting. That's a great point that you brought. Thank you for that. And as we talked about, you experienced those symptoms. What were your initial thoughts? I know you've been taking care of all the COVID patients. You know what the outcome will be. What were your
Right.
initial thoughts?
As when the sore throat started initially, it was after my 7-day shift. So why would it be COVID? Maybe I'm just tired, right? So that's where I thought.
Right.
And then the next day, when the fever and the headache, am I still tired, or is this COVID? And how can I get COVID? Right? Because in the hospital, I'm actually quite safe. I'm protected. We're all away from each other. It's the grocery stores that scare me more.
Sure.
It's being out in public where people are walking so close to you that scare me more. So when the chest pain and the shortness of breath started, I went to, just like you, as a healthcare practitioner, as a frontline healthcare worker, I went to my patients who I have to place breathing tubes into. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that is going to be me, isn't it? That's going to happen to me. And I had a finger pulse oximeter, and the saturation was decreasing. I saw it going from 95 to 90, and I still remember when it hit 85%. And my respiratory rate was going so fast, because now there is anxiety there too. And I knew if I called 911, what the EMT would have to do, because it's not safe to transport me to a hospital 10 to 15 minutes away, the way that my saturation is, the way that I'm breathing. Yes. I did think that I was going to die, and my kids were going to find me. So that's when I gave the battle to God.
I mean, again, that story is, we're going to get more into that. When you look at the picture, even when we talk today, there are over 500,000 COVID patients worldwide. And, at that point, did you ever fear death?
I feared death when I fell on my knees. I knew that when my oxygen saturation went down, I feared the death without my kids knowing what happened to me. I feared the death without letting my kids know what they mean to me. For some reason, when you're looking at death, and there are other people who have probably more amazing stories than me, but I can only speak about myself. And for me, the death I feared is the death that my children won't know why I'm sick, what happened. They're so young. Do you know why I'm going to work and why I can't stay at home? That's the death I feared. The Christian in me knows that God will take care of me. Amen. And the Christian in me knows that there is a better life that is planned. This is the middle of my story. God knows every single part of my story. So who am I to fear the death at this point, because there might be something else? And look at me now.
Amen. I mean, that's it's again, that itself a testimony. We have mentioned during your prayer that you have recited some of the Bible verses, and especially from Psalms 91. What change that happened at that moment? What did you experience at that moment when you're reciting those Bible verses?
When I was reciting Psalm 91, I thought about, there's various verses in there, but he talks about the deadly pestilence, right? He talks about the disease that comes in at night.
Correct.
And I remember praying, and I'm glad that you asked me, because I haven't brought this part up yet. I remember even talking to God on the floor, and again, knees on the ground, head to the ground, hands up in lamenting, right? Just praying. And I remember saying, is this disease that's coming in the night coronavirus? Because it's here. So you said I should be your refuge. Call on you. I'm calling on you. Don't let me fall. Take me from that snare. Like, do not leave me. Let me have that party with you that you're talking about, right? And then at the end, I'm like, please give me time. Like there was the request. If it's your will, God, if it's your will, Lord, give me time.
Definitely. I mean, as a Christian, that you have that faith in you, and you have the promises in the Word and promises in Christ. We have. At the same time, you're a human, so you will have that moment of, hey, Jesus, have me another chance, or whatever the prayer that you had at that moment. Definitely, that's because we're all humans, correct?
Oh,
And
and he knows every human. He knows all of us. He knows that, we are not perfect. We are striving to be like Jesus. We are trying our hardest, and he looks at us with Jesus's face, right? Like that's how he sees us. So he knows that Julie John is no longer Dr. John and thinking logically, but she's a scared mom. And I'm sure his heart was breaking, even knowing how hard I was struggling.
Amen. So fast forwarding a little bit more, I know that with the faith, with the prayer you had, still you have to think about, like you mentioned, you're a mom. You had to think about your little two children.
Yeah.
And, as a parent, and I do have two kids as well, as a parent, one thing that you always wanted to know, their future, how they going to grow up, whatever something happened to me or what will happen to them. So I know that you made a farewell video or goodbye video for them.
Did.
What were your thoughts at that moment?
So after I prayed, I asked God for time, and I spoke to medical physicians. I believe that God gives us all different types of experts for a reason as well, and we can keep the Bible and our help together because he has brought us help, right? So when I spoke to my medical colleagues, they said, Julie, you let everybody lie on their stomachs in the ICU. Why don't you try it? It's called proning. It's a way to kind of redistribute oxygen, ventilation, perfusion. So when I was lying on the ground, my oxygen started to slowly go up over some time, over like an hour or two. And when it did, I have time. God's given me time. To me, it wasn't even proning. I'm like, oh, God's given me time. So let me make a video. When I made the video, my saturation was still hanging 85 to 88. But I thought, if I make a video, I can tell my kids every single thing I want to tell them. Things like be good to the world because the world has been good. Be kind to each other. I love you. I remember telling them, remember my faith. Like don't forget my faith.
Mm-hmm.
I told them, I know people might not be nice to you, but you still need to be kind, be confident. You guys are amazing people. How much can you tell your children when you know you might die, right? Like that feeling, I don't ever want anyone to ever go through that.
Right. That is a picture that I always, whenever hearing your stories, or that's the picture that how would I handle that? So I think that you had the strength, and at least you wanted to pass along the message to them, and I think kudos to you that for that moment.
Thank you. That's
And,
great.
thank you. And so I know that you've been diagnosed about 14 days or 15 days ago now, and you've been again another 2 more weeks of a quarantine. And I'm sure as a doctor, you cannot stay home. You have to go back to the battlefield.
Thank you.
So what are your next plans?
What are my plans? So I feel like the baseball player that helped the team win a game, and I've been benched to the bedside, and I can't fight or help them win whatever cricket match or baseball game or football game because I can't play. I've been injured. So I've actually started to help with telemedicine, where I can help lead a team of critical care physicians and any other experts or people who are even non-critical care physicians because there's quite a shortage in the country right now.
Sure.
But I will be going back to work hopefully in 2 weeks. My quarantine has been extended because I started coughing a little bit more a few days ago. But by God's grace, the cough is gone. I haven't been febrile. But unfortunately, I need to get tested. So me going back to work is still unsure because I need to be tested to make sure I'm not actively infectious still.
Correct.
And I wouldn't want to risk anybody else, but that also means I can't be near my family.
I mean, definitely. So, as you have gone through this disease and as a provider, but more than that, you have experienced what the other patients go through. What is a message to someone who is going through this situation and especially in New York, in New Jersey, Texas, all the different states of United States, especially our Malayali community, we do have lots of healthcare workers,
Mm-hmm.
and they do. It's matter of minutes, a matter of hours. Some of them will get contracted with this.
Diagnosed, absolutely.
Exactly. So, what is your as an anchor of their hope to make them more stronger in their faith? What is your message?
I will first tell you that if you have been diagnosed or going through symptoms, number one, let me sympathize and empathize with you. I am so sorry that this is happening to you. And especially if you are someone who is associated with or is a frontline healthcare worker, or you could be working at a grocery store, a gas station, wherever you're working and you were exposed, I know the anger, the fear, the sadness, the guilt. I know what the internet is showing you. I know everyone who's calling and asking to see how many days are you? What medication are you on? What are you on right now? The one thing that I have stayed true is to my faith. My faith will not waver.
Amen.
When the anxiety of the world starts coming to you, and that could be in the form of family even, saying, how many days are you? Are you okay? Can you breathe? And the anxiety starts building up, turn to God first. Turn to your faith first. Number one. Number two, all of the information that is out in the world, there are specialists beyond subspecialists that have underground networks that even I'm a part of. And we are fighting this all together to make you better. So do not be scared. Do not have fear. If you have this, faith over fear, right? I talked
Yes.
about faith first, and then I said do not fear, because those two are opposites, and they'll try to fight each other, but faith
Correct.
will win over fear.
Correct.
The third thing is, if your doctors are advising you to take certain medications, I would suggest that you take the medications. I would not try to Google, because Dr. Google can be very dangerous. Correct. At this time especially. Dr. Google might have all sorts of information that might not even be quote unquote evidence-based. And worst of all, it might be very anecdotal. I had a family member, I had a cousin that decided to do this. God has given us medical providers for a reason. Ask the medical providers. And last but not least, this will resolve. We are praying to God to burn this pandemic to the ground. We are praying to God. He did not cause this pandemic. He is somebody who we turn to right now. Amen. And I think this is a testament of our faith. So if you continue praying to God and relying on Him, and He also has brought us physicians and other health providers to guide us, you will get through this. Do not lose faith. Do not lose hope. Because when Dr. Julie John, who became Julie or Mommy, was lying on the ground, I can tell you my fear was there, but then my faith took over. And He has rewarded me with time by the grace of God, and I'll say it again and again. So, and if any of you are going through something, reach out to each other, support each other. Things like food and water, hydration are hard to get when you're so sick. And we have such an amazing community. I know you'll reach out to everybody.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean that again, Malayali communities always cares for each other, and that's a great point that you did mention. And കേരളത്തില് നേരത്തെ ഡോക്ടർ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ അവിടുത്തെ ആരോഗ്യ പ്രവർത്തകർ ഗവൺമെന്റ് വളരെ നല്ല രീതിയിലാണ് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. പക്ഷേ എങ്കിലും ചില ആളുകൾ നമ്മുടെ ഈ വാർണിംഗ്സ് ഒന്നും കേൾക്കാറില്ല. They have their own way. Again, that goes to our Malayali heritage also.
Of course.
What is your message to those who are watching you?
Please don't go outside and socialize. There are so many people that are risking their lives, their family members. We all belong to a family member. There's a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, a daughter, a son. When you feel like you want to go out and see your neighbor or something else, you don't know if you're sick. The guilt that you might feel by giving someone an illness, you can take control of that. You don't need to be me in a white coat. You don't need to be a frontline healthcare worker. You are part of the solution by staying home. Please stay home so we can do what's called flattening the curve. The hospitals are, the majority in my state are at capacity. We need you to stay home before it comes to you. Kerala is doing an amazing job so far, but it's so far and it can stop. And a lot of people will get sick and die if you do start socializing, please. For everyone's sake, I tell everyone, if the doctors are scared, the patients should be scared too.
All right. Dr. Julie, I want to say thank you for this time. I know, you've been busy all this time, all these days, and as physically speaking, you had gone through a lot of issues, and I think you had mentioned in one of the interviews, you felt like, even though you're a young person, vibrant person, you felt like you're a 90-year-old. So I know it's been fatigue was one of the issues or symptoms been having with this coronavirus. But we want to, from the bottom of our heart, we want to say thank you for your time. And, just like we mentioned before, this test, you made it as a testimony. And that's really a great encouragement for those who are going through this. And we wish all the best. And I know that you have to go through all these procedures and to get tested again. And we pray with you that God will take care of you.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you.
No problem.
പ്രതിസന്ധിയുടെ മുഖത്തും വിശ്വാസത്തിൽ തളരാതെ പ്രാർത്ഥനയ്ക്കായി മുട്ടുകൾ മടക്കി തിരുവാഗ്ദത്തങ്ങളെ ഉരുവിട്ടുകൊണ്ട് രോഗവിമുക്തി നേടുന്ന ഡോക്ടർ ജൂലി ജോണിന്റെ സാക്ഷ്യം നമ്മൾ കേട്ടുവല്ലോ. രോഗവ്യാപനത്തെ ചെറുക്കുവാൻ നല്ല മാർഗം ക്വാറന്റൈൻ ആണെന്നും പ്രാർത്ഥനയോടെയും വിശ്വാസത്തോടെയുമുള്ള കാൽച്ചുവടുകൾ ഒരു വിശ്വാസിക്ക് അത്യന്താപേക്ഷിതമാണെന്നും ഡോക്ടർ നമ്മെ ഓർമ്മിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. ഭരണാധികാരികളും പോലീസും ആതുര സേവന പ്രവർത്തകരും നൽകുന്ന നിർദ്ദേശങ്ങൾക്ക് നമ്മൾ വഴങ്ങുകയും വേണം. ദൈവം നമ്മെ എല്ലാവരെയും അനുഗ്രഹിക്കട്ടെ. താങ്ക് യു.